Street. Thomas Street. Thomas Street. There he is. McCandless.
Mr. Adam Morris.
Oh my lord. That sounds beautiful.
Does it?
You sound like Matt Lauer from NBC before he got fired for sexual workplace harassment.
I'll take it as a compliment.
As you should, Tom, because you don't want to sound like Matt Lauer after he got fired for sexual harassment in the workplace. That poor fella.
I think I do.
You do sound like him?
I would imagine you'd sound pretty similar.
Forlorn and husky.
Is that what I sound like? Forlorn and husky?
Yeah, but I mean that's a beautiful way to sound. Like if you were.
Are we what?
Huh?
Are we away here?
We're away, Tom. We're away. Absolutely. I was just about to say, if you were to, say, in the celestial space, and you were told, Tom, we're going to send you to Earth tomorrow, and you don't get to choose where you're going to be born. You don't get to choose your family that you're going to get born into, but you do get to choose your voice. And we have the following categories here to choose from. You can choose A, squeaky and weak. B, deep and sinister. C, malevolent and shady. Or D.
What is malevolent?
I'll have to look that up. I just like the word. And D, or D, forlorn and husky. I know which one I would choose.
Malevolent.
Malevolent. The word sounds malevolent.
Meaning having or showing a wish to do evil to others.
Malevolenty.
Well, I'm not going to choose that one.
Who would you, well?
Yeah, I'd go there. Forlorn. I think I'd go for I might look up the full meaning for forlorn too.
Yeah, please do, Tom.
I actually think that's probably has a German verlassen in German. Probably has a German root that because they've got a lot of words with that. They've got VOR. A lot of their words begin with VOR, even though this probably begins with an F in English.
Yeah, definitely.
Forlorn, it does, yeah. But they pronounce their Fs and their Vs very similarly.
Vorlorn. Vorlorn and Oski.
Oh, pitifully sad and abandoned or lonely. Oh, that's awesome.
Pitifully sad. Oh, that's a strong one. Is that Vorlorn or Forlorn?
That's forlorn.
Forlorn is pitifully sad and abandoned.
Unlikely to succeed or be fulfilled.
Oh my lord, Tom! Oh, there's too much in there. That's too much in there. I thought
that wouldn't be nice though. Yeah.
No, it'd be nice.
I mean, of course. Nice to have some hope, wouldn't it, in there?
Yeah, but remember, we're not talking about. You didn't choose your personality type. This is just how your voice sounds.
Yeah, but I wonder there must be a common thread there.
Between
the personality.
There could be definitely a connection, but I think the feeling of abandonment can often lead to greater things.
Well,
and I didn't know that the word forlorn had so much weight behind it. Um, I, I'm actually feeling a bit forlorn about the word forlorn right now.
Yeah, I can sense. I get that. I can sense that.
Yeah, I wouldn't like someone to level that charge at me. That, hey, Adam, you sound a bit forlorn at the moment. And then if I Google it, and then I'd be like, oh my lord, so that's not right.
Yeah,
Um,
I've been going over some Rick and Morty episodes. It's a cartoon that I enjoy and Adam enjoys, and there's a character in that series called Jerry, and
Jerry.
he is quite a forlorn character. At least in the recent episodes that I've been watching. Well, no, I think that's his. I think that's his role in the series, to play like a quite a hopeless character.
Are you eating at the moment, Tom?
I guess I am. Yeah, I guess I am.
You guess you are. Spoken like a true man swamped in forlornness. I guess I might be eating.
I
What's the point of anything?
so, talking about coming back to Earth.
Yeah.
I've I started working. So I've had a long layoff of and I like to think that I'm always working. Really, like I'm always working at something. It's either involved with maybe my family dynamic, or my friendships, or my music, or some writing, or so I'm always active in some kind of way. But I recently started um, working where I need to be at a place at 6 o'clock in the morning,
Oh my lord.
and give my time and energy in a way that I probably wouldn't. Well, I mean, what I was going to say, I wouldn't choose to do, but once I get there, I do enjoy it. But that's been coming back to earth. It's been a grounding experience, and because it's a new thing, developing new sleeping patterns, um, and and so that ties in with the voice. Hold on. That ties in with the like being born on Earth, I guess, or coming to Earth from a different. Not that I've been off the planet. I've never done that. But another thing that I came across this week, I started thinking about the human voice, and I thought, where does it come from? Like, what does a voice box actually look like? So I googled it, I YouTubed it, and there was a video of a guy talking about the voice box, kind of how it's set up, how it looks in your throat,
Yeah.
and the vocal cords that sit inside it. And then I watched a video of a woman singing, and you could see her vocal cords moving as she sung. And they're like, it's crazy. They're like these kind of muscle things in your throat, and you move them. Like, that's what I'm doing now. I've learned over the last 28 years, but I guess you learn most of it in the. But you manipulate these vocal cords with their muscles, just like you move your hands, I think. But it's so connected to you, so obviously not really. Well, when you learn a new language, you probably do have to think about how you're going to move them in a new way a little bit. So maybe that's one of the things that brought me to looking at those vocal cords.
So, do you think people that can't sing just need to work out how to manipulate those muscles?
Um,
Or do you think
yeah,
not being able?
I think probably everybody can sing. It's just a matter of how you define music and how you define. Because you think about Bob Dylan, like the first time I heard Bob Dylan, or I remember hearing, I probably can't remember the first time I heard him, because my parents who played him probably before I could speak, I imagine.
Yeah.
But I remember them putting on an album when I was quite young, like 4 or 5 years old, and thinking like this guy, like I remember saying to my parents, like, this guy cannot sing. Like, and my dad was like, yeah, he kind of sounds a bit like a frog or something. Doesn't he? A frog in his throat, or but then
that's
if he, it also cuts through so much, that voice, because it's different, it's unique, and so it's a matter of opinion, I guess, those kinds of things.
I had almost exactly the same experience with my dad. I brought home the Bob Dylan album "Good as I've Been to You," where that was like I think that was like an early '90s album, and he just played his acoustic guitar and sang these old folk songs, and his voice was so intensely bizarre that it was playing at full flight. And my dad walked into the room, and he literally stopped in his tracks and turned towards his stereo. It was his stereo because I was living at home, and he looked at the stereo, and then he looked over at me and said, "Is this a joke?"
Right.
Yeah. Um, but yeah. But I mean, Bob Dylan he never sang out of tune. I think that he just has an unusual kind of tone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's even an interview where he says that I hit those notes, and he does. He hits the notes, so yeah, he's just got an unusual tone. That's dead on, I think.
But what I was asking you about if you think people could sing or learn to sing, do you think it's similar to the way? Did you ever have like a friend at school who could draw really well, like naturally from an early age, and they were just
Yeah,
able to do it? Um,
yeah,
Now I can't draw at all, Tom.
me neither.
Now you can't
Or
draw at all.
poorly.
Yeah, I can draw very poorly, but I think if I no, I can draw very poorly, but I think like if I studied drawing for 10 years, I'd be a competent drawer. I'd be okay at it. I'd be pretty, I'd be okay at it, but I'd
Yeah,
never be as good as that guy or that girl who could do it. And if they spent 10 more years working on it, I'd never catch up. I'd
yeah,
never. I think it's in the frequency. It's part of the genetic code or something. I think so. I think
yeah,
even if you can teach someone how to sing and manipulate those muscles and learn how to control the voice box, I don't. I think if it's not in the frequency of their frequency, I don't think they'll ever like truly be great singers.
hmm yeah, yeah. I think absolutely people have their natural tendencies. It's probably got a lot to do with the family environment too, like what the values of the parents, because those sorts of things are always going to get sort of lent towards. So I guess if you're a parent that's a good drawer, it's likely that like the child's going to kind of idolize you more than likely because you're their kind of their world, and so they see you drawing and then they draw. And if you're singing, then it's probably
Oh, you think
the
so?
same. I think so. Yeah, I think it's not in every single case, of course.
But then that's probably genetics as well, isn't it?
Yeah, probably a bit of nature and a bit of nurture.
A bit of nature and a bit of nurture. Thomas Street covering the bases. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And tell me, does the voice box look like a box?
Not like a cube. Doesn't look like a cube really. I think it's I think it's the space inside. From what I can gather, I didn't do a lot of. I only watched these couple of videos for about maybe 20 minutes or something,
Were they a
and
bit
it was really.
disturbing?
Were they a bit what? Sorry,
Were they a bit disturbing?
a little bit. Yeah, the one of like the guy even said, "I hope you don't get too queasy." Like when like looking at the inside of the woman's the singer's throat, or was kind of it's a little bit. It is a little bit disturbing, I think, but it's interesting too, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like really intense, like Japanese pornography.
Yeah.
Not that I've watched intense Japanese pornography at all, because it's too. I can't even eat a raw steak, so I mean, I can't, you know.
what, what do those two things have in common?
I don't know. Well, I don't know because I've never watched it, so I'm not sure. I've got no idea. Um, but I'm told from Asian friends of mine that the Japanese pornography is just really disturbing. Um,
Right.
and I don't like disturbing anything. I don't even like,
Okay. Right.
like from my mother down to a river, a waterbed. I don't like disturb. I don't even like opening. Now here's the thing, uh, and I don't drink milk. But if there's a 2 liter bottle of milk that's new, that hasn't been opened in the fridge, or I think that's a quarter of a gallon for our American audiences. I don't feel right about opening that bottle of milk. I don't want to disturb that. So I
You don't want to.
I don't want to disturb anything.
That's just breaking the seal, though, isn't it? Really, like. I
Yeah, it's
think
breaking the
that's.
seal. You're disturbing it, and you've started an operation that is going to change that thing forever.
Well, I guess you're sort of doing that when you buy it from the shop.
Well, you're still taking it home in its state, and that milk bottle is still contained in its container. That's interesting, isn't it? But it's still contained in its container, and that milk bottle in that state, full of milk, airtight, sealed, is happy to travel and be put in another fridge. And then if you're going to go have dinner, say at your parents' house that week, and you get a text from your mother just before you leave, and she says, "Hey, can you bring some milk, or can you pick some milk up on the way down?" I'd actually feel better when that happens, so I can take that milk out of my fridge, put it in her fridge, and then she can disturb it and open it.
um, I was listening to a little bit of David Foster Wallace.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, I listened to a bit of him. He's got this great big book called Infinite Jest. I haven't read it. I haven't read the book. I've just watched a little bit of him talking on YouTube from time to time.
It's a terrible book.
And it's a terrible book in your opinion.
No, I'm just saying it's a terrible book.
Anyway, one of
sorry.
the things that he said in a talk that I was listening to was good art should disturb the comfortable.
Oh my God, is that right?
And comfort the disturbed.
Okay, yeah, right.
I think he came up with that. Either that's just something that he was passing on. I think
he was a terrible plagiarist.
Right. Yeah.
But his nonfiction stuff was amazing, and his interviews are amazing. He comes across as such a gorgeous soul, which I think he is. But Infinite Jest, man, dude, you can line your birdcage with that for 3 years, and that's as good as use as it's going to get put to. But yeah,
Right.
I actually really like listening to his interviews online. He has a short non-fiction collection called Consider the Lobster. Have you heard that? Have you read that?
No, I haven't.
And then he has
What is
a
what's the essence of that of those stories?
he goes to like the lobster festival in Maine and basically just observes thousands of Americans flocking to this festival where they eat lobsters, and he asks the question, maybe we should consider the lobster and all this, and not just our
Mm-hmm.
our appetite. He compared it to like ancient Rome, the way they were, the way they displayed the lobster, and the way they selected the lobster, and the way they boiled the lobster alive. Um, he compared it to just like this insane level of what do you call it when you this insane level of entitlement and total domination over another thing or another creature.
Mm-hmm.
And then he did one on the adult porn awards,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah.
which is it's stomach turning reading, but it's brilliant. It's really really brilliant.
Is it a
Um,
similar kind of uh, direction with the porn industry as they consider the consider the lobster or consider the people in the porn industry? Is that the sort of
yeah, he has a great level of empathy and compassion and intelligence. Yeah, like he's really he's he's quite a beautiful soul. But and I just found Infinite Jest to not really represent who I believe he is, or who I believe he was to be.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not a book that I've attempted to read because I've seen the size of it.
yeah.
and and he's quite dense, like as it is. Like, from what I've seen of him, his thought, like he processes things pretty. Like he sees each thought through. So I can imagine a book like I'd probably rather read the Quran.
You'd rather read the Quran. Now
Well, it'd probably be a similar,
that
probably
should
be a
have
similar
been
kind of.
no that should have been the
Um,
blurb at the front of Infinite Jest. Tom Street says, "I'd rather read the Quran." Um,
Not that I've read the Quran. Oh, we're getting a bit religious and political. Hope
yeah,
nobody strikes me down for that. That'd be terrible.
I don't think anyone would do that, Tom.
I mean, no,
I don't think anyone would do that.
no
Um,
harm. I mean, no harm by it. In fact, maybe I could learn something.
not from Infinite Jest.
Infinite jest. I looked up the meaning of that word, jest, and it's like playfulness, I think. But basically, I'll look it up again. Or I think it's like playfulness and comedy, something like that. A thing said or done for amusement, a joke. He laughed uproariously at his own jest.
Oh, at his own jest. Yeah, that's a tricky one, isn't it? You're not allowed to do that
Yes.
too often.
I wonder if we get back in line with that what we were talking about earlier in the conversation with your dad,
Yeah.
hearing Bob Dylan on the speakers and saying, "Is this a joke?"
Oh, is this a jest, Adam? Is this a jest?
I was thinking about a good friend of mine sent me Kanye West's new album
Oh yeah.
this week. Yeah, it's called Jesus is King.
Jesus is
Um,
king.
yeah, and it's a really nice album actually. It I feel like it stands up with his old stuff. He's got some crap in his old stuff, And this album, I think I pretty much enjoyed all. It's a lot easier because, like, I think in his last album, he had a song called "I Am a God,"
Yeah.
and in this one has got sort of a bit of the higher power. It's a lot easier for me to listen to somebody talking about how great somebody else is, rather than talking about how great themselves are.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think so.
Yeah.
Probably for everybody, that's much more relatable. But and then I sort of had the thought that, getting back to Bob Dylan, he kind of had a similar kind of story, I thought, in that he had a lot of popular music, about popular sort of culture music, and then he made that album Slow Train Coming.
One of the greatest albums he ever made.
It's a great album, yeah, and it's really a worship album when you listen to it. Like, it's like the last song's called When He Returns. I'm pretty certain he's talking about Jesus, at least in his own context.
Yeah,
And
but
then
it
got me thinking about.
Oh, sorry, go on. Sorry, Tom.
Well, you go.
No, I was just going to say, musically, it's a terrific album. Like whether you're plugged into who exactly is returning or not, it's amazing. I think it's a brilliant album. But yeah, sorry, go on, Tom.
No, yeah, so do I. Yeah, I think Hard Rain's Gonna Fall is on there. That's
Hard Rain's Gonna Fall is not on there.
Is it?
No,
Is it
that's
not?
on Freewheel. That's on like his second album.
Is it?
Oh, I'm not sure. Someone better malevolently Google that shit.
On the on the Joe Rogan podcast, they've got the guy that does the googling. You know, like the guy after this. Oh, we get that up on the screen. But because we're low budget, we got to do our own.
I still like how you refer to Joe Rogan as a colleague. I think that's great.
Yes.
Our friend and colleague over there in Studio City.
No, it's sorry. So, Got to Serve Somebody. That's the opening track. Hard Rain's Gonna Fall is not on. It's not on Slow Train Coming. But Serve Somebody, I really like. That's one that's been in my in the database of my organism for some time.
I was just watching a little, very short clip of Muhammad Ali talking about. He had this amazing little clip, and at the end, it was the service you do to other people is the price you pay for your time on Earth.
Right.
Or I think they actually said the rent that you pay.
Yes. Actually, that's funny. A cousin, my cousin, his name's Dylan. Actually, he was named. I actually asked his dad if he was named after, well, because of Bob Dylan, and he said probably. Something that he said to me some years ago is that the cost of living is always going to be everything you have.
The cost of living is going to be everything that you have. Yeah. What does that mean?
Well, I don't know. I've been mulling over it for some years. But I think it's in a similar vein to what you just said about what Muhammad Ali. Well, Muhammad Ali, he had a lot of rhythm. That man, he could do a lot of damage he didn't need a very big window to. And I guess, yeah, he was probably somewhat like the Kanye West of his day, but probably he's probably a bit. He's more famous, I guess, but he was a rhythmic African American that influenced the world, certainly in his time, and probably for some time too. And I guess he also did some rhyming. He's pretty famous for his rhymes, isn't it? Like,
he did some rhyming.
Sting like a bee. That's not really a rhyme, is it? I think it goes on. I like a butterfly sting like a bee. I forget. Certainly a confident young man.
You were certainly a confident young man, Tom. Absolutely. Oh, the man was not missing anything in the confidence department. Absolutely. Oh my lord.
Anyway, getting back to Bob Dylan.
Well, let's definitely get back to Bob Dylan, but just to pay a bit of homage to Muhammad Ali, one of his great little poems, one of his great rhymes was, "I've." This is when he's promoting his upcoming boxing fight with, I think, Joe Frazier or George Foreman. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so he gets asked a question and he launches into, "I've wrestled with alligators. I've tussled with a whale. I've done handcuffed lightning and thrown thunder in jail. You know I'm bad. Just last week I murdered a rock, injured a stone, hospitalized a brick. I'm so mean I make medicine sick." Like,
Yeah.
this is
Spoken like a man who read the Quran.
spoken like a man who's read Infinite Jest and the Quran. Oh my lord. What a beautiful man. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting back to Bob Dylan there, Tom, what were you saying?
Getting back to Bob Dylan and the album "Slow Train Coming,"
Uh-huh.
and it being what I feel like is a religious. A man gave name to all the
Oh,
animals.
that's my favorite. That was my favorite off that one.
Going to change my way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Slow train, I believe in you, precious angel. Got to serve somebody, and when he returns, well, he was a Jew, wasn't he, Bob Dylan? That's what I was thinking about. The fact that he was a Jew, and his original last name was Zimmerman, actually, and that's a German word, Zimmerman, and it's the word they use here for carpenter.
Is that a fact? Oh
Yeah,
my
so,
lord.
yeah.
It's all connected,
It,
Tom.
it well, it does seem that way, doesn't it? When you break it down, or it seems to, yeah.
If
So
we
literally, can't translate means room man, but that's the word they use for carpenters. And the carpenters here have a strange kind of um, it's a strange. They don't just do a regular kind of apprenticeship. They do a kind of pilgrimage for, I think it's 3 or 4 years, where they don't really have a home. They travel from place to place. They wear these special clothes, like a vest, like a leather vest with big buttons on the front, and usually a hat and special long trousers. They travel from place to place
the
and do work on different people's houses. And I think there's some kinds of rules around how much money they can earn and what they can. I think I think like I think they have to, if say they go to a restaurant, they have to pay. I think there's people that do it there's different variations. So some people might just go to a restaurant and pay with money, even if they're involved in this tradition. But if they're really hardcore, they won't pay with money. They'll pay with service directly, with some kind of carpentry
what?
service. Yeah, and some of them just never stop with their pilgrimage. So they fall in love with the tradition, or whatever it is, and they just continue to do it. And they become the journeyman. They're called the journeyman
Of the Zimmerman.
yeah, yeah. So
That
a bit of
sounds.
interesting, because in the city where I'm living, I guess at the moment, many of the Jews were murdered. Many of the um, And I think it has to do with the fact that they're so good at. I'm quite sure it's that they're so good at accumulating wealth. Really, um, that infuriated the Germanic people in the 1940s, especially.
Yeah. Well, it's taken a very dark political turn, Tom. Uh,
Where do we go from there? Well, it's something I've been thinking about, and it's just a thought, really. But the so the Grimm stories, they come out of roughly this region. The stories of the brothers Grimm. So the brothers Grimm toured Germany basically and gathered all the ancient stories of the people, and most of them, the stories are quite twisted. They're twisted stories, and stories are typically humanity's best way of transferring information.
yes.
And the Jewish stories, they were collated in the Bible, actually, but they were probably able to write their stories down much earlier than the Germanic people were able to write their stories, because they had the use of paper, which takes us back to our previous podcast, because we were talking about paper a bit. And paper was invented in Egypt, actually, I think at the time when the Jewish people were enslaved. So maybe the Jewish people even invented paper. And something that I've been thinking about is if these two mythologies, the two kind of these two conflicting stories over with very deep roots, were entangled in this kind of battle in the Second World War, the battle between the Jewish mythology and the old, being the Bible, and the old Germanic mythology being the Grimm, the stories of the Grimm stories.
Yes.
That's as far as I've got, Adam, with the thought process.
Holy moly! You're blending Old Testament with the Grimm brothers fairy tales. This is amazing, Tom. This is very good stuff. This is very good stuff. Oh my lord! This is very. Sorry.
Much appreciated the praises or the compliments.
Praises or the compliments. We've got the Zimmerman traveling from town to town like monks, paying for their steak sandwiches with staircase banisters, and now we've got the Grimm's fairy tale being some kind of reckoning with the Book of Genesis as a cause for the Holocaust. Tom, I don't think we could get any more value out of a podcast than what's been brought to the table to think about today. I think this is oh my lord. Okay, well, I mean, I think you're absolutely right with regards to storytelling, passing on wisdom. That's the only way. That's the only way it's done. So I fully believe, and I tell you what, it would be even worth doing is taking all the Grimm's fairy tales, because they're very dark, and as they are told huh?
Very twisted.
They're
often very twisted.
They're very disturbing. Either of the brothers Grimm had no problem opening bottles of milk. Absolutely.
Well, it's probably where they start, where they call the what is it called when when the domestication of cows? I wonder where that's probably in might have been in Mongolia or somewhere like that. Who knows?
The Mongols
Who started
domesticated cows?
domesticating cows? It's probably not that hard to find out, actually. I'll refer to Google.
It would have been the Indians, surely, wouldn't it?
In North
Uh,
America, you mean? Or?
no, dots, not feathers.
That's not feathers. Instead of domesticating cows. This is kind of like the new domestication of a human being when you start looking up all your kind of little queries. We bow at the feet of the golden Google cow.
Yeah, it is so true that every time anyone types anything into Google, the grand presupposition is that Google is almost God. Google tells the truth. It's a
Yeah,
terrifying presupposition, but it's something that
yeah,
every human partakes in every time they go, "Oh, we'll just Google it."
yeah. It could be the tower on the tip of the Tower of Babel.
The tip of the Tower of Babel.
Could be seen that way, like the beacon at the. Historical reports dated to the Chinese Han Dynasty state that yaks were domesticated by the Quan people during the Longshan culture period in China about 5,000 years ago.
Well, your Chinese is fantastic, Tom. Haven't haven't the Indians been haven't the Indians been dealing with domesticated cattle though for like 10,000 years at
I don't
least?
know. That's just what that's the top answer on Google. So that's
Yeah.
all
Do you know why that
I've
is?
got.
Do you know why that is? Because the Chinese are controlling the internet.
Could be so.
The Chinese are like, no, no, no. We domesticated cattle. No, there's nothing to do with the Indians.
They're sacred, aren't they? In India, cows.
Yeah, in certain provinces they are. In other provinces they go into kebabs.
Yes, they're meals. They're sacred in some provinces and meals in others. Tasty, tasty delights.
Tasty delights. No wonder David Foster Wallace killed himself, the poor man. Who can live in such a world, Tom? Who can live in such a world?
I don't know. I guess you just got to find your path. I reckon it must be about just finding your way through um, finding your way through it all. Cultural traditions that dictate a lot of what moves a human being. I think what sets the path.
And how
I
much
guess you
should
could.
they? Oh, sorry, go on, Tom.
Well, you can either walk on the path or you can buy a machete or you can build a machete. It's probably it's slow going if you got a machete, then slower than if you're on the path. But sometimes there's probably lineups on the path too. There's probably traffic jams. Many people experience traffic jams. I'd probably rather have the forest sitting in front of me and behind me than the river of brake lights, as
The river of brake lights. That is gorgeous. Now,
that's
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 very.
actually I just need to credit the artist. It's
So,
Julian Casablancas from The Strokes.
oh, I thought you were going to say it's Kanye West. Now that reminded me that what you were just saying reminded me of a Emerson quote, and I had to look it up to make sure it was right. The Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson. Do not go where the path may lead, which is similar to what you were saying about follow the path or get the machete. Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail.
Oh, he's a trailblazer.
He's a trailblazer. And that does not mean he plays basketball for Portland in the NBA. Isn't that lovely, though? Isn't that gorgeous? I really like that. Now, that's Muhammad Ali.
That's what Muhammad Ali said.
No, that's what Waldo
Well,
said, but that's who Muhammad Ali was.
yeah. Yeah, well, and he was probably between Muhammad Ali was probably between the trailblazers, the basketball players, the athletes, and the poet, and somewhere in that vicinity. Because essentially that's what he was. He was an athlete, but he was a poet too. I guess he took his time on the mic to rattle the world, and he took his time on the canvas to rattle the skulls of his opponents.
Oh, Thomas, you're on fire. Thomas, you're on fire. Oh my Lord. Oh, I'm just a witness. I'm a witness of the church of light at Thomas Street. Thomas Street and First. That's where I am. That's where I am right now. Thomas Street and First. My Lord. Good mercy. Hello.
Well, that's yeah.
Tom is just thinking, folks. The podcast is not over. Tom is just thinking. Yeah, you've gone a bit quiet there, Tom. You need to lean back into that.
I was thinking maybe if we start it, or if we don't start, but if say we're here at on the corner of First and Thomas Street,
Yeah.
we can maybe jump in our Morris and go for a drive.
Now, for our American audience listening, Tom's last name is Street, and it's Thomas Street. And for our German audience who's still listening, who hasn't called the police on Tom for his inflammatory comments about the Jewish wealth gathering propensity. Yes. We'll just leave it. Maybe we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess. Well, we're talking about the invention of paper in Egypt. I think that was around 3,000 or 4,000 years ago. I think something like that.
See, I thought that was the Chinese.
No, I'm quite sure it's.
I'm not saying.
There's
No. I'm probably wrong. Yeah, I just for some reason thought, or maybe that was maybe they invented ink or something.
I think they might have invented the press. No, look, here we go. Well, here we get back to China. Paper was invented around 100 BC in China.
Oh, okay.
In 105 AD, under the Han Dynasty, same people, Emperor Hoti, a government official in China named Xia Lun was the first to start the paper making industry.
Tom, your Chinese is flawless. It's flawless.
I don't think.
I feel like I'm in China. I feel like I'm in China right now.
Something that I've been practicing is that is Chinese is qigong. Qigong. It's like Tai Chi. It's like a type of meditation and movement sequence.
Is qigong?
Well, actually, they refer the Tai Chi practitioners refer to it themselves as a technology. Actually, that's the word that they.
Yeah, right.
They use. Yeah.
That's like some of the martial art people referring to their teaching as a fighting system.
Yes.
Which I always thought was a bit of a reach, a bit of a stretch.
Fighting system. Well, I guess it is. It's because you're systemizing movement. I guess when you're practicing like it's probably a bad reference to make, but the Karate Kid.
I don't think that's a bad reference.
Sorry,
I don't think that's a bad reference at all.
I just thought it might be. Well, I guess if we're talking about Egypt and the Chinese dynasties, it's hard to. I think it's hard to equate. Uh, but I guess it's a story. The Karate Kid. Yeah, and then he systemizes those movements with the painting of the fence and the washing of the windows until their muscle memory is what controls his movement. Or what does it control his movement or his? So it's beyond thought, isn't it? Well, that's what it's the same for any athlete when they.
Yeah, but the only drama with the Karate Kid, he did it over like a summer.
Yes, and
Well, it takes 10 years of
yeah,
repetition to build muscle memory to
yeah,
well, to be able to do anything at that kind of level.
yes. I was actually thinking with the movies, like really the montage section of the movie. That should be the movie itself in most movies because that's where it's at, really. But nobody wants to watch some guy painting fences for 3 years. It's not an interesting. It's not an entertaining. I mean, if you're the guy himself, it might be because
Yeah, but
it's
I have to say, if you sat through a 3 year film and watched someone paint fences for 3 years, and then at the end of that 3 years, he had a karate tournament fight with the evil dojo, and he did that crane kick that broke Johnny Boy's nose. The feeling of exhilaration that you would feel would be maybe 1,000 times what you felt at the original Karate Kid with the montage. Like
mm,
you would literally almost go into a transcendental state of exhilaration and pure understanding, and you may even know how to beat Johnny Boy with a crane kick at that stage if you'd watched it for 3 years.
mm, yeah, yeah. It's context, isn't it? When you share somebody's journey um, with them, and it becomes a lot more meaningful. You learn about how the person functions and their trials and their tribulations and their triumphs. And it's an investment, isn't it? It would be a big investment to put 3 years of your life into another person.
Or into a
I
film.
guess that's, or it's, yeah, well, yeah, into a film is, yeah,
Well, actually, that's getting back to Infinite Jest, because in Infinite Jest, the characters in the book watch this film, watch these cartridges, and it's so compelling that they can never not watch them anymore.
yeah, yeah. I can understand that. Yeah, I think the if we just need to go one step further, I reckon, and and make the cartridges or find a way to make the cartridges as a civilization or a species in such a way that it informs our real life, so that we get that same intensity or that same peace or that same joy when we experience the day-to-day um, aspects of life as when we're experiencing the cartridge. So the cartridge needs to become a very potent medicine for the people,
Oh,
and I think that's
yeah,
doable.
yeah. I think that's definitely doable too. I think, yeah, I absolutely agree there, Tom. Absolutely. To make every, are you saying like to make every moment of your existence as enthralling as that cartridge?
yeah, so that would be the ultimately like the cartridge and the reality would just be one. There'd be no sort of clear boundary between the two. It'd just be because at the moment it's just like it's probably a lot like when we get on the internet, because in the time that he lived, he didn't have the high speed or when that book was written, at least, didn't have this high speed internet that we do today with the screens in our pockets and um, and it's like it's probably like we're consuming we're consuming high density information uh, on a frequent basis, and it's a lot for our primate systems to digest, I think. So we need to find a way of getting the textures and the balance of intellectual stimulants and sedatives just right, so that people can move between the digital world and the organic world, and they can maybe grow into each other.